Truth, logic, action, power. It's the GreggHoush Show here on New Revolutionary Radio. This is a show where we seek not only to inform, but to inspire you to action. We're going to talk about politics and current events on our program, but we're going to do it from an angle of human rights, civil liberties, and activism. It's our goal to enable an informed citizenry, and we're going to do that by emphasizing critical thinking, news source verification, and actual science versus nonsensical quackery. But most important of all, we hope to inspire you, our listeners, to take action in your community. For while our job is to deliver the clear, verified truth, our talking to you is only a small part of our goals. The real power belongs to you, and it is up to you to decide where your strength lies when facing the real challenges ahead. But know that when you decide to stand up and make a difference, we will stand beside you.
Welcome to the GreggHoush Show. Today we are recording episode 5 with all of my friends here. To my right is Lauren Pespiza. We've got Casey McLaughlin. We've got Mac over there, good old Dave, and we've
Mac
got
Daddy.
Yeah, and that's Kayla.
That's me.
And today we're going to be talking about General Flynn, although I do kind of like, it feels weird calling him General at this point. I just want to call him douchebag.
Yeah.
But General Flynn, and we're going to be talking about the French elections and some more of the fun stuff like Le Pen leaving her party right before the runoff. And of course, you know, at the end, we're going to focus a lot on today's news, which is Barrett Brown getting violated by the Bureau of Prisons and taken back to jail. So that's our day today. So I'm going to hand it over to Casey here to kind of set us up.
So we are going to jump right into Flynn, the breaking news of yesterday. What's going to happen with him? Let's start with that. I feel like most people probably have at least heard that he's royally fucked. So what's your take? What's the next move? And then we can maybe go backwards into kind of the details of it.
According to Cummings today on TV and his wonderful interviews he gave, where he was very heated and yelling at the White House.
That was great.
Come on, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Come on, man. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was amazing.
He thinks that everything's pretty actionable, and he thinks that we are definitely going to see some charges happen there. So,
well, we had that thing with Chaffetz. What was it, yesterday, the day before now?
Oh, yeah.
He was like, I don't know that he broke the law, but it doesn't look like he complied with it.
And I also haven't investigated anything, so I'm not really sure if I could be speaking yet.
Right.
But at the same time, there's no federal prosecutors yet. So I don't know, even if Flynn did, quote unquote, break the law, like, who's going to prosecute the case? Because Trump hasn't appointed anybody to all of the prosecutors that he's forced to resign.
Right.
So
Could be a little
I feel like this is the best time to admit you've broken a federal crime.
Is there ever a best time to admit?
Yeah, when no one's around to prosecute you.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Don't you tell me to be quiet, Gregg. Only me puts me in the corner. I really.
All right. So, yeah, definitely where we are right now is looking at everything that Flynn has done, everything he's been accused of. At the very least, it looks like he's broken a couple laws.
Mm-hmm.
And at worst, he's broken some pretty bad ones. But we won't know about that until the investigation's over.
Emails.
So what about the alleged? What is come out that he has done, and what are the implications of what he's most likely done based on the facts that we have now?
Well, what we know right now is that he was working for Turkey, and that he has admitted that by filing.
He was registered as a lobbyist in Turkey, and he registered retroactively as a foreign agent come this year.
Right, which is how we know that, you know, it's true without saying, you know, we're waiting for the end of the investigation. We know it's true because he now admits it.
But the thing that's not, the crime isn't that he was a lobbyist. Like, because he is a private citizen, he can be a lobbyist for a foreign country. However, as a former military general, he needed to have gotten permission from the Pentagon to register as a lobbyist, and he didn't do that.
You're also supposed to register as a lobbyist for a foreign agent, as a foreign...
Before you work for the...
Right.
Well,
You're not supposed to, like,
anymore.
Go back 6 months later and be like, by the way, for the last year, these guys.
In no other place in the world can you retroactively, like, be like, oh, I didn't break the law just yet. Like, no one can do that in their real life except for anyone in the White House currently.
It doesn't feel like it, though.
No,
it doesn't.
2017 has, like, taken 2016 and it's pooped all over it. And it said, you thought you could be worse? watch me.
First
Hold my
100
beer.
days.
Yeah, 'cause that,
Feels like we're recapping like an episode of Scandal from like season 9 where you're like, oh, can the show just end already? They have
Yeah.
nothing left
or like
to
in
talk about. They're
Homeland,
just
like
making up
after
crazy
Claire
shit.
Danes went crazy. Like when you're like, this wouldn't happen in real life. Here it is in
I
real
think
life.
this presidency has jumped the shark,
I
as
think
they
it
say.
started on
Yeah.
a motorcycle and then run up to the ramp.
Exactly.
It's like I constantly feel like we're the frog taking the scorpion across the river, and we just keep getting hit over and over and over again. Am I? Like,
Yeah, I have no idea what you're
okay.
referring to.
Well, like the old guy next to me got it. so-
Okay. Mac Daddy.
Wow, that's
Mac Daddy's got it.
that's wonderful.
You know, I remember when I first heard that story from my good friend Aesop.
Aesop
Rock.
Oh, man.
All
You
right,
mean Aesop
so-
Rock, right?
No,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also a good reference. I support that.
I love it.
So
So Flynn, though.
getting back on Flynn here.
Flynn,
you know,
the original sin.
one of the more interesting parts of all this is that he asked for, permission to go do this stuff and was asked kindly not to do some of it in 2014. And then went and did some of it anyways. Although, we'll see how illegal they think that is once this investigation is done. I think that's actionable. But what's interesting is he was hired by a Turkish businessman with, very clear and strong ties to Erdogan. And he was hired to investigate the mullah, Gulen, who is currently living in Pennsylvania. And the goal was to make a video that would show all of this research that he was doing as Flynn Co. to really prove that this person was a terrorist and that he was working against the current regime in Turkey. And because he got offered the position with the president, the now president, the then candidate Trump, he decided to call off that contract and move on to work for Trump. And that put him about $530,000 into a $600,000 contract. So, a lot of money had already transferred hands. And the video wasn't going to get made. So what Flynn goes and does is he writes an op-ed that gets printed in The Hill, which most of DC reads. I read. It's actually, pretty respected publication.
Yeah, it's one of the few out there that I can trust a little
Yeah.
bit. A little bit.
Well,
And
if you want to know what's going on in Washington.
Yeah.
everyone on the Turkish side, like the guy whose name I always just get horrible, but Mr. Alptekin, the Turkish businessman, say they never saw this and didn't know it was coming. And Flynn and his lawyer say they gave them a copy to review a draft before it went out. The Hill says they knew none of this shady stuff before they printed that, and they might have had, second thoughts if they had. But it went out. And the article that he wrote was very anti-Gulen. And I get the sense that the reason he wrote the article was almost because he owed the people who had paid his company $530,000 in his mind, a lot of money. And that he wanted to set this sense out there that, you pay me for work, and even though we didn't get to the end, I'm still going to give you something. So when his run with the president's over and he has to go back to running his own private firm again, he has that credibility of, I might not have finished that one fully, but I did a lot for them. I think that's why he did that article, but that article led to a lot of problems for him. I think it ended up being a really bad business move because now he's kind of tainted. I don't know how many people are going to want to hire him for a little while.
Kind of was a very nice modifier you added into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think maybe it might be a little more complicated than that, since he signed his contract with the Dutch firm owned by Alp Tepkin on August 9th. And on September 19th, according to former CIA Director James Woolsey, there was a meeting between him and, Woolsey was there and then left. I'll get back to that in a second. But he was there in a meeting with Barrett al-Bayrak, who is the son-in-law of Erdogan and Turkey's energy minister, and Turkey's foreign minister, Mevlut Cavusoglu, and they discussed extrajudicial rendition of Gulen to Turkey. And that was why Woolsey left, because he found, quote, the topic startling and the actions being discussed possibly illegal, end quote. which, this was a month and a half after, less than a month and a half after that contract was signed in the first place. And it was a 90-day contract. So it kind of implies that, maybe those ties went a little bit beyond just making a video.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do think $600,000 for 90 days worth of research is a bit high.
That does seem a little.
I just
You can get paid to do research.
Well, some people can.
Yeah.
Some people say. I can't just help think about like the RNC when Flynn spoke, and he's just like, if I did half of what Hillary did, I would be in jail right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like that.
Turns out you
Yeah.
might have done
Yeah.
a little more than half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I just feel like when especially when these people are clearly hypocritical and they just need to. Their own words just keep getting thrown back in their faces. I just want to find all these clips and there shouldn't be an investigation. We should just be constantly playing these clips every time they enter a room. Because it's at this point, it's just I can't just help but want to slam my head against the
It's
wall.
like their WWE entrance music, right? If I did half of what Hillary did, and then the fireworks come out around the sides
and then
as they enter.
everyone's lock him
and
up,
then
lock him up.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, something
I was
awkward
just
just
pondering
happened.
the fact that, we're having this conversation about how it's like a WWE event. And then I remembered that, Donald Trump is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Oh,
my
and
God,
he's got the woman who started the WWE as the head of the small business.
Right.
I don't know. What world do we live in? I don't understand it.
It's just getting weirder and weirder.
I know, and it's not even done yet. We haven't even hit 100 days.
No.
We're
not even there.
Third of the way through the first year.
I know.
We've got 4 of the. Well, okay.
We're at 99 days.
Realistically,
right.
Well, no, the 100.
And he has 99 problems.
He has, I believe, more, and I think bitches are part of them. But
he
doesn't think so.
Yeah, they're lying. That's what they are. They're
Yeah.
all liars.
Yeah.
Well, getting slightly back on track, I would, I would think one of the more interesting pieces from Cummings today, as he did all those
I wish
interviews,
I saw this. I wish I saw
was
It was so good.
yeah, it was great.
It was
but-
actually, I saw this, and I wasn't even quite informed about the entire situation, but I enjoyed his anger.
yeah, well, his
everything about
anger
it.
was amazing.
Yeah.
But, he has requested a bunch of information from the White House, and Spicer has, of course, said, we don't have what you're looking for, and what we do have, you can't have.
Right.
Spicy.
But then he goes on to say that Spicer does, that we gave him everything we can. That is complete bullshit, as we know, and Cummings on air literally said, come on.
Right.
To the people, and outright called out Spicer for,
Beautiful.
for not giving him the documents that he knows exist.
Elisha Cummings actually was one of the first people to press the post office lease, because he's actually, since day one, Donald Trump has been in violation of the postal agreement, where they just opened up the new Trump Hotel, and because in the lease it says no a federal official can rent this thing, and Elijah Cummings was the first person to be like, let me see a copy of this lease, let me investigate this. So it's like Elijah Cummings has been on top since day one.
Well, the more interesting part about him saying that is that means Cummings is claiming that the White House is stonewalling him on a bunch of documents about someone that now has 2 different government groups investigating him, Flynn, which the only reason not to give up more of this information is you're covering your tracks.
Yeah,
you've
if you're
done
guilty.
something and you don't want the world to know what you've done.
So, but what could his prospects really have been for the world not finding out what? I mean, as far as people trying to get ahead and keep it a secret, this seems like one of the poorer attempts, even of this administration, that we've seen of it. So, is there something else going on? I mean, he really left himself very vulnerable on this. Flynn did.
I feel like there's a lot of pride. I feel like I feel like from the White House standpoint, it's not necessarily be like they're covering up, but they're just so embarrassed and they have so much pride in their pick of Flynn that they're like, well, he was a great man when we hired him.
Do they get embarrassed over there anymore?
I
don't think they're capable.
I don't think they even recognize when they're wrong.
Well, they don't, and even when Flynn lied to Pence and they had to fire him, Trump wouldn't even say that he fired him. He said that he was forced to let him go.
Right.
And then spent weeks complaining about it.
Meanwhile, and Trump's the guy that is famous for saying, you're fired.
Yeah.
You know,
So I feel like a lot
people
of
forget.
so I feel like a lot of times with the White House, it's like they may not necessarily be covering something up, but they're just so they have so much pride, and they're like that they just will refuse to back down.
yeah, I don't think they see when they do wrong. I don't think they see it at all. So
I think they.
I mean, why would they? There's been no, sort of repercussions for any
Exactly. I
wrongdoing.
think
So,
that they
like,
feel like
how
they're
would you learn?
immune to consequences.
yeah, I mean, well, the election kind of made them. I'm sure made
they
them feel
think
like
they are.
Yeah.
We'll see how this works
I
out
said
for
they
them.
feel that they are.
And the Congress, the Republican Congress won't do a damn thing. They won't even investigate. They voted twice to not even let him release his tax returns. Like they could have subpoenaed the IRS to release his tax returns, and the Republicans voted against it.
As soon as they think their seats are threatened, watch them turn on him, though.
That's true.
That will be
That's
comedy
true.
gold.
Yeah.
You won't be able to find a single person that ever admitted supporting him.
that will happen.
So here we stand at the end of another day of the Flynn saga. And what we
Flynngate?
learned,
Can we call it Flynngate?
Is it a gate yet?
it's not a gate. It's not a gate. It's not a gate.
Oh,
Nothing's a gate.
Flynsha? He's got to have a name.
Flingazi?
Flyngazi.
Yes.
Oh.
Flyngazi. Flyngazi.
I like it. I like it.
I need 9 committee investigation hearings.
Yep.
And I need a 15-hour Senate testimony.
Well, what we've learned today is that there are, a lot of people in government who actually think charges are going to happen, who think that Flynn have broken the law, and who think they're going to get proof. Or I would think they aren't telling us everything they know simply because some of these documents are classified, so they know they already have proof.
Well, we already had 2, forget which congressman it was, but it was 2 congressmen, a Democrat and a Republican, and one of the Republicans says it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when some people go to jail.
I don't remember which
I
congressman
feel like
that
that
was.
might have been Richard Burr, but I'm not
Yeah,
100% sure offhand.
It was a little while ago, but the 2 on both sides of the aisle both said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when some people go to jail. So it looks like Flynn might be the first one.
Well, let's hope that Flynn is the first one. I mean, anyone really who is just for hire and will hire himself out to someone like the current Turkish regime deserves jail time.
Yeah, I mean, I have more problems with the Turkish regime than I even do with, the Russians, to be honest, at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a lot of other regimes that are involved in our election, or we're involved with, like, people working in our government right now. And I think that it's interesting we're talking about Turkey. I know they're like, it's not like they're that far away,
Right,
but
it's just
like,
that he was hired by the Turkish.
Yes, I know.
Sure.
It's just, I guess I find it refreshing to hear
Through
that.
RT, he did get money out of the Russians, and that is a state-backed, and all this other fun stuff, right? So, like, all of that's great, but it's just wonderful. What an upstanding member of our military.
Yeah, I mean,
working with the enemies.
Yeah, are they? I mean, yes, I guess so. They
Yeah.
are. Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Are you looking for a contract from RT here? I mean,
Yeah,
are you trying to kind of,
Yeah, I'm trying to get
anyone that has their people vote to make him a dictator should be an enemy. I think.
Quite possibly. So, I think that's all you can really say about Flynn at this point. We all believe he's going to see some stuff. So maybe next episode we have more to say about that. Hopefully it's that charges were filed. I think now it's time to kind of move on to a little bit of a talk about this interesting French election and good old Emmanuel Macron versus Jean-Marie Le Pen. And
it sounds so nice, doesn't it? It doesn't sound like they're capable of any wrongdoing.
Sounds so beautiful, and then you look at everything she stands for.
Right.
And then you hopefully puke in your
that's why
mouth.
accents were invented, though, to make it not sound too bad.
I saw the little bits and pieces of her 60 Minutes interview, and it was just the most wretched thing I've ever heard out of come out. Like I remember, I think it was Anderson Cooper asked if she thinks that people should wear hijabs in public. She was like, no. And it was just it was gut curdling, just hearing her, all of her answers. And I was like, how are you a person? How do you share DNA with us?
I mean, I would claim that, she's partially a product of her environment and that, her father started this party, the National Front, and, is a horrible person. But she went well past him so much that he now criticizes her.
Oh, I haven't heard that. I know she's been criticizing her dad.
It's back and forth. It's back and forth.
Oh, that's
well, let's hear. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, do we want to give a little Spark Notes sort of summary of what's going on with the election in France right now, where we're at now?
Well, so in France, the election goes in a unique way compared to, over here. They have kind of 2 elections. they have an initial election, which is whoever wants to run. Let's get 5, 6, 7, 8 people in this race. And then the top 2 from that election go on to a election just between 2 people, which is more like what we see here in America.
Novel way of doing things.
It's kind of like the jungle primary system that some states use for elected offices.
Yeah, and so over there, what we ended up with was this really interesting scenario where 2 people from parties that were not currently in power, that were not, the establishment, have ended up in the runoff. And I don't remember exactly how long it's been since that happened, but I think it's been a while.
It's been a week. They had it on Sunday.
Yes.
I meant since last time in history that the 2 people...
I'm like, no, this is breaking.
Some people on my show think that we're going to edit stuff like that out for them. We're not. She said that. So where we are now is we have these 2 people. One, a centrist. And that's weird because the socialists have had power there for a little while and at least power enough to have someone in the runoff usually. And the other, a far right person who I would actually, just personally, I consider her, a Nazi. Yeah. I mean, she is a horrible, horrible human being.
Well, the French courts did rule that you can call her a fascist, and, that's perfectly okay.
Well, yeah, they said it's not defamation because it might be true,
Exactly. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't hear it. That's amazing.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. She left the party a couple days ago. She's distancing herself from the National Front before the runoff. And... I mean, that just makes no sense to me. I mean, it's been so long she's been associated with this party that everyone knows it's not going to change who people think she is. I don't know who she thinks she's fooling by leaving the party.
Not to mention she used that that quote unquote terrorist attack that happened. I don't know, but I don't know the details of it. I just know that we like to use terrorists very fast when something tragic happens. But she used that she attacked it and used it and was ran with it right before the Sunday primary. She was like, see, this is why we need to close our borders. So it's weird that she would even distance herself from an anti-immigration party after she used an anti-immigrant stance the day of the primary.
Well, her entire program, her platform is anti-immigration, protectionist, somewhat anti-Europe. She wants to bring back monetary policy and monetary control to the various individual states instead of the central bank. And I mean, on her immigration stance, she wants to start taxing at a high level anyone who hires immigrants and foreigners. And she wants to make it very hard for them to get into the country in any legal way. She isn't, of course, telling us that she's building a wall around the country, but, she is pretty close to Trump on a lot of these points.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? That's the selling point. Start with that.
I mean, it's a little bit of a longer wall than we have so far failed to build. So
it's gonna be
it's in the budget. Worst case, we'll have Switzerland pay for it.
Switzerland, yeah, there you go. The supposedly
Isn't
neutral
there
country
a mountain range, I think they already have a wall, a natural law, right?
I mean, there's the Alps, there's the Pyrenees.
The goal is to get another country to pay for it.
Okay.
Well, we can see through this. We can see that she's apparently we can call her a fascist now. She's
Absolutely.
a fascist.
Yes, she's a fascist.
So, but what is this move doing? For people that aren't gonna see through it, what is the design of this move? What is leaving the party in her mind doing to up her credibility? At the 11th hour now.
From what I've read, I think it's so that she doesn't have to run against the people. It gives her a better chance because of their electoral system to actually win, right? Or to actually get some...
As an independent?
Yeah, as an independent. She can...
A little less toxic.
Yeah.
So this is just mathematical pragmatism on her part. Yeah. This isn't any kind of I'm
assuming it would probably be maybe to get more campaign dollars too, because it's a lot of people are really it's the batteries, the positive ends where it's they just don't want anything to do with it. That's what I don't know.
So she's bled the National Front Party dry, and now she's looking for money elsewhere.
My assumption is that she's just trying to get more dollars.
She already got funding from Russia, so it's not like
everybody gets funding from Russia.
No, it actually did. That
is
established fact.
Directly.
So
everybody does now, right?
Yeah, but this wasn't through a shell that owned a shell that was in China that gave $1.5 billion to someone, and then somehow a few million made it to her.
Yeah,
nice.
What's has publicly endorsed her, and I think Erdogan has done too.
Yeah, that's a really good sign. I mean, what's interesting right now is the polling. So the polling says that a Harris poll specifically says that they think Macron is going to get 64%. And
so then there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's just like our election, like
right.
what are we talking about? Hillary was going to get 83% on election day, so
and that's exactly where I think we find ourselves. All the pollsters are telling us that he wins easily.
My question
that scares me now.
So my question is, where is this maybe I'm just being naive, but like where is this nationalistic like move coming from? Like I don't understand. Like with Turkey and like France and like America, and we've got other like. Other anti-European, like where is this really coming from? Is this just because we haven't had like a massive like a really like upfront dictatorship in a while? Like I don't understand.
I think the nationalist movement in Europe is different than the nationalist movement here. I think it's for different reasons and for different. I mean, maybe they say it's for the same reason, but like the actual problem.
No, I'm just saying like it just seems like it's all coming at the same time. So I'm like, where is this like coming from? Or am I just? I
think it's the destabilization of the Middle East, and people see more immigrants, people get angry. I think it's I think that it is. I think it's in a way an overreaction to terrorism and also economic issues. Like a lot of economic issues where the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer.
Yeah.
People need somebody to blame. This is typical fallout from that is you blame the other and you become nationalist. This is textbook.
I mean, it makes sense that, if you look at the rise of fascism version 1.0,
right.
It happened in the wake of the Great Depression.
Right.
And when the economies hadn't really recovered, of course, the Germans brought Hitler to power right around the time that Germany was recovering. So, bit of a parallel there.
Yeah.
But now we had the Great Recession. The middle class has been, gutted by 20 or so years, 40 years of the left-wing parties moving at full speed to the right and the right-wing parties going off a cliff.
Right.
And basically, there isn't a strong united left. A lot of the leftist parties have imploded, including the French one.
Yeah, the left does not know how to toe the line, and also a lot of operations have been undertaken against leftist parties to destabilize them, so that they cannot be.
I know France has had like it's a little bit different compared to like here, like their city, their cities are like where the it's not like that's where like the jobs are, as opposed to like the suburbs in France are where like the poor are, and like
I mean that's I think that's true in many cases in different parts of America, maybe not Boston in particularly, but I think
like in the sense of like I don't know, like it was for a while ago, like because like now if you go to the suburbs, that's where like the houses are, like you see like, but I think it's like a little bit different in France.
Yeah.
But so I know like there is a larger wealth gap like between like the middle class and the wealthy, but it just like. Other than that,
there's also social protections in France that they don't have here, though. So.
Yeah, they get like nap time on Wednesday or something like that.
Right.
They also have their retirement age is I think 62.
Right.
They have essentially a single-payer healthcare system, although it's a bit more complicated in that people get supplementary private insurance that like 90% of the population has.
Maternity leave.
Yeah, they have guaranteed maternity leave.
But I guess my question was like, besides like the wealthy gap, like the wealth gap, which every country has, like what are the other major problems that they're grasping into? Like we had like that silent majority, quote unquote, that like people were like tapping into, people losing their jobs. Is that what France is going through too? Or
France had a strong union presence for a lot of the a lot more I guess more recently than America did, and a lot of strikes and a lot of union activity that worked to get people higher wages and better paid, and then there's a reason a lot of French people are also upset about immigration. Because
that's what the French do. They're just assholes.
No, I mean it's not. It's if people are coming in and you have a union strike and they're coming in breaking your strike because they'll work for cheaper. Now that this is just what happens. It's not the immigrants' fault. They're just looking for work too. I'm not blaming the immigrants, but I'm just saying things like that do destabilize. They do make people angry. They do make people, want to say, hey, just like close it up because they're taking our jobs. It's the same thing we say here.
Not to mention when that many people have grievances and there's that many like things you can tap into. I think also a lot of it is like the mobilization of that fear and that sort of that's a very like from a leadership standpoint that's a much easier thing to tap into
anger
than like a pretty progressive, and then there's a lot of different sort of like factions of progressivism and a lot of different like leftist groups and stuff, that's much harder to organize.
Because-
whereas if you have a group of disgruntled people, that
because
of course they're going to be on your side. What do they
means
have
you're
to
focusing
lose?
on future goals and progression, while fascist means you're reactionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to rile up the public in a reactionary stance. Say, hey, we have this future planned out. Look how beautiful it might be. So many people don't believe it.
That when the angry people vote, so it's like you get
Yeah.
them angry, so they want to go out and vote.
Exactly.
And it's very easy to tell people that, hey, you have all these problems. Well, I have a simple answer.
Yeah.
It's that guy's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And
And,
if you want to be like, well,
that's the case, that should
the
run.
problems are complex. And we're
Yeah.
going to need a lot of different solutions to fix different. Everyone's
No, I
like,
don't
boring.
like that. That's
There-
not
but
grabby.
there
Give me
are-
something
There
better.
are progressive people. There are people like Sanders. There's the other guy who was running in France that was like a progressive, Mélenchon.
Yeah,
Mélenchon.
But
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
also very anti-EU.
Yeah, well, I mean, I that's a complicated issue. I don't actually know very much about in particular, but I know,
That
I'm
seems
just
to be a
saying he
hot
was using
topic,
the same.
though.
He was using the same sort of riling people up tactics that somebody like a populist
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah.
So it is possible for progressives to be elected via a populist movement. It's just we're not very experienced at it, and progressives don't know how to toe the line all the time. What are you guys laughing at? What's so funny?
So
What did I say?
you said nothing.
Okay.
But I'd like to throw this out there for anyone really wanting to compare all this fascism that's rising lately with the past. That I've learned that a lot of people out there these days don't want to do as much research and as much reading to really figure all that out.
Greg
So-
is throwing shade at me so hard right now.
So what I'd like to throw out there is that there's actually an amazing movie. It was originally a 2-part miniseries called Hitler, the Rise of Evil, starring Robert Carlyle. And this came out in like 2003, and it starts with Hitler literally as a young teen trying to do art, and it ends with the war.
Oh
And
yeah, if only he'd
the-
gotten accepted to art school.
Well, I mean, so that's not entirely it, but
Yeah,
it
I know.
shows him on the street. It shows him listening to all these people who would literally get up on a box and talk to the crowds, and he ended up homeless and falling asleep on the side of buildings with a bunch of other homeless people just lying on the ground, and then people would get up and start talking to them and handing them flyers about the Jews and
Oh,
about
yeah.
the problem.
Right.
And so when you get to follow it, you not only get to follow like a lot of the formation of his mind, but you also then get to follow the formation of the party, how he went from a pawn of the party to in total control of the party. And then how it rose and what tactics they used. And really, you also learn about the public's mentality and what they were feeling. And as someone who studied a lot of this, hundreds of books on these subjects, I got to say that this movie really got a lot of it right. So if anyone out there actually wants to understand a lot of that stuff, I'd say that's 2 hours well invested. It should be. Again, that's Hitler, the Rise of Evil with Robert Carlyle.
The Dictator was pretty good too, right? Is that on Netflix?
Oh, with Charlie Chaplin?
Yeah.
I love Charlie
Of
Chaplin.
course,
It's
that's
always relevant.
classic.
You
I
can
know.
use the speech at the end of that movie at
I
literally everything: a Tesla ad, a eulogy, a wedding speech.
Is it weird that it kind of makes me horny when I listen to it? Is that just me?
I mean, it's appropriate for everything.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's the speech at the end of Dictator. You can use it for anything. A house music remix, I'm sure, it has been made already. Like literally everything. Sorry to go off topic, but
Not copyright.
I mean, yeah, but dude, I think it might be in the public domain at this point. That movie was made in 1940 something, 1930 something.
yeah,
it's gotta be
I mean, it was
where's
definitely
the
around when Hitler was around.
Yeah, where's
so it's been
where's the
some time.
pirates? Where's the pirates on this? I'm sure they could tell us whether that's public domain. No, it's probably not.
So France, yeah.
Sorry, so back to France.
I know, sorry.
Well, I mean, so what is okay? So this guy is supposedly going to get 64, whatever the number was, percent of this
Macron.
vote.
Yeah, Macron.
But we thought that Brexit wasn't going to happen, and we thought that Trump wasn't going to happen. So
Well,
what's
those
the
are-
likelihood?
Those are a little different situations. The polling in Brexit was actually very close, usually within about 3 to 4%.
Almost always within the margin of error, which made
and
it
several,
horrible.
Several of the polls actually showed Brexit winning, but people were like, no one, come on. When they get in the booth, they're going to be like, seriously, self, I can't go for this. This is just dumb. And then people were like, no, I can go for this. And so it happened, and it was really people not really accepting that the limitations of the polls. And similarly, in the United States, it was, I mean, there were some problems with some of the state polls, but if you looked at the nationwide polls, for the most part, they were showing a fairly close race with Hillary Clinton with a modest lead. And in fact, nationwide, she did in fact win by about 2% of the popular vote. So it was actually the nationwide polls were pretty accurate. There was just the pundits interpreting them as, the polls all show this, therefore, you know, she has a 99% chance of winning. And, well, that wasn't very good reasoning on their part.
It was fake news.
I would call
As
it,
they say.
I would call it people not understanding statistics.
Oh, you mean lies, damn lies, or statistics?
I would just say incompetence.
Okay.
Oh, so American math.
Yes.
American math.
Well, what scares me is that, like, okay, so this is like, you know, a 12-year-old like bank teller like running for president in like France. It's like, why, like that to me, like, it's just like, and not insane, but it's just such a surreal like a bank guy is going to be like the beacon of hope. Like, where are we in this world where like we're looking to like someone who works in a bank to like get us out of like save us from a fascist? like it's just like, I don't know. It's just like
a bank guy to save us from a fascist. What?
like it's just like it's a scary thought.
But the fascist is capitalism at the end of the day.
It's pretty horrible that you know I'm looking at the idea of Le Pen actually getting elected, and I'm hoping just with all that I am that an investment banker wins. I never would have thought that would have been
just
the case.
Somebody
like,
reasonable.
How do you get to? I mean, honestly, I you know, again, like maybe I need to go watch that movie myself again because I'm wondering how do you get to a point where your choice is investment banker or Nazi?
Yeah, like why is that? Why are those the two options? Like, why is it always coming down to investment banker or Nazi?
Where's the community organizer, guys?
I think they might be the kind of people willing to do the things you have to do to get power,
or the people that are willing, that are able to
access to the resources.
Yeah, to get the capital to do it.
There are a lot of rich people out there who have that point of view.
So, what is the percentage of Bernie Sanders winning this election?
Okay, but but isn't that guy I mentioned kind of like the Bernie? Are you talking about him? Or are you actually?
No, I was actually talking about Bernie.
Oh, you actually mean Bernie Sanders?
I was making fun of the bro.
She's a Bernie bro.
Oh,
no, I was not a Bernie bro.
Listen,
I was a Bernie fan until the Bernie bros ruined him.
I'm kind of a Bernie bro anyway, guys. It's cool. It's okay to be a Bernie bro. You could be a lot worse bros.
Yeah, like you could be like a Derek bro.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. I mean, but you know. I mean,
we don't still hear people going blah 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 Obama boys. Just let it die.
There was Obama.
There was
that was the thing that they pushed as the meme in 2008.
That was bro Obamas.
I
never heard that one.
I don't know. I just made that up right now.
That's a good one though. Wait, where were you? They needed that branding.
Well, they did not need that branding. Clearly, not at all.
I will bro down with Obama any day.
Bro down, ho down, showdown.
With my pants off, you know.
He is a nice guy.
I mean,
that's what I was saying.
I would definitely go on a cruise ship with him and like a bunch of famous people, but I'm not sure I'd really get like bro down with him. I feel like I've got enough beef with him actually that I couldn't quite get there.
No, but then he would start singing and like with that smile, and your panties would get so wet.
You know,
I feel like Michelle would turn me on more than him. Actually, she's like a tough broad. You know, she's like,
and she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I know. She just she dances really well. You know, for a mom, like she's
far off topic here.
It's this, okay.
You know,
I'm sorry. This is just. Sometimes I go on these little fantasies of Obama and Michelle and me.
Sometimes I love Kayla, and she can drag me off topic very easily.
I'm introducing people to each other who will do nothing good for each other.
Probably not.
That is pretty much my skill set.
That is actually very, very accurate, Greg. I gotta say.
Yeah.
But friends for life.
Friends for life.
Or until one of us does life.
Yeah. These two were made for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, back to the French election and away from your panties. You know,
probably a safe bet. Probably a good idea. I don't know.
I mean, probably the closest I'm ever getting to your panties.
Yeah,
but, you know,
that was pretty close, guys.
Right. That was
maybe
too close.
Maybe if we went to France.
Maybe if we went to France.
Anything can happen in France.
This is true, especially a fascist.
Especially a fascist.
So France, guys.
I mean, I was just thinking too how attacked by fascists France has been over the years, and how many fascists have attempted to attack France over the years.
And now they'd be like super.
And now they are, you know,
And they have
close to electing one. I
they
mean,
have
I think it just
probably
shows
won't
how little
happen.
people understand fascism.
they
Like,
have
I
a
don't think the
solid-
people who are supporting her are looking at
Yeah,
it
they
that
don't
way.
teach
Like,
it. They don't
oh,
teach it in
look, it's
school.
like, a future Hitler coming.
Okay,
Like, let's,
they had a solid left and a solid like activist core leftist group of people, like Black Bloc attacked. I guess I feel like maybe some of them have been recruited in a way because they want something to believe in. I'm just wondering, like they had a solid base of left,
like mob mentality.
Yeah, and no, they had a solid base of like people that were like fighting back against right wing and fascism and
That's
corporate
how you
takeovers.
get so many socialists in power.
Exactly,
Which is getting fixed now, I guess, is how they look
yeah,
at it.
and I guess it did swing back, and I'm not sure whether it's that everybody got old and like shitty or like
Well,
where did
there's a
all these
lot
where
of-
did all these like socialists go?
Well, to a large extent, you have to remember that the Socialist Party in France basically went from being socialist to social democrats to Hollande, who was, basically
He was more right.
Yeah, he was
very
in
right.
he was in the Socialist Party, but he was actually kind of right wing, and as a result, people kind of got disaffected with the Socialist Party in France, and they splintered off. There's now like 4 or 5
This
different.
is the
fairly
typical
major-
story of the left, though. We
Right,
cannot
but, I
toe
mean,
the
it was
line.
because they went the party went way too far to the right, and everyone went, well, screw that, I'm
Okay,
out.
well, that's a
Screw-
valid
these guys
reason to
suck.
leave. but-
Also, too, like when you come like for older workers too, older unionized workers, because my father is very like that way. It is easier to get those workers on the right by saying immigrants are taking your job.
Exactly, yeah.
So it like a lot of these people who are Democrats or socialists, it is easier for them to vote for someone like Le Pen who's saying, "Hey, I'm going to protect your job because that's your livelihood."
And that seems to work about every 50 to 70 years in that range. It seems to be very cyclical.
It is, and it's
it's a pendulum,
and the fact that
pendulum-esque.
we don't pay attention to history, and we don't actually pay attention we can't remember what like Republicans had done 3 years ago and that are doing it again today. So we can't really accept.
Look, this time tax cuts will totally improve the economy.
So it's like
Well, I mean, no, it's true. Like
Well,
the way
we're-
that you teach things, it's you grow up. Like I'm in sort of that state of life now. Everyone's like kind of trying to figure out the real world, graduating college, sort of thing. And you realize you realize that your whole education is, oh yeah, all these bad things used to happen, and then this is how we fix them. And so you don't ever like you learn about
you think they're
terrible
done.
things. You learn about how trickle down economics. You learn about how
How it
the
doesn't work.
Holocaust happened and now it's over and now we like all the Jews and treat them perfectly well all the time. And you don't ever get into the nitty gritty of how these things come about. And I think like Gregg was talking about, like, not only how does a person like that rise and have those opinions and be able to mobilize such a sort of fear-based campaign and takeover, but like how people are able to hook on to things like that, because those people don't think that they
Are doing anything wrong,
evil,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is the failings of how we understand history. I think coming up, I think that's where the pendulum comes from. I think that's.
I'm trying to think of somebody who has thought he was evil. Maybe like I'm just trying to think of it in the past, like, because you're like they don't think they're evil. I'm like, well, maybe some of them know they're evil. Someone must know they're evil.
It's like not getting enough in depth with history, plus also watching like too many cartoons where the villain knows he's a villain, and so then
Yeah.
you just assume all villains.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
it, like,
Or,
That
you know.
person thinks they're a good person. Obviously, they can't be that bad.
Right.
And I think you hit the nail on the head where it's like we look at like history as like this like blocks. It's like this happened, but we don't look at like why it happened
Mm-hmm.
and like the the controversies and like the effects of it happening. So it's like like especially like in America, like we're still grappling with the effects of slavery and we can't confront that. But yet, and like to think that like the Holocaust and like the rise of Hitler, and it's like Le Pen, it's like she's a fascist, it's like she's doing the same things. It's like we don't look at like why Hitler ran to fate.
Wait, what school did you go? Because we totally looked at that in my school.
Okay, well, I guess you didn't go to a public.
I went to a
school.
public city school. We totally looked at that. That's like
Public shitty school. Wow.
Yeah, well, Acton Boxborough. It's not that shitty actually. It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
But like we actually we do look at that. I mean, maybe I'm just like a white educated
Well, maybe
liberal.
you're not a good teacher, but like I mean,
Good
I feel
teachers,
like, but
Well,
like
it's not
feel
a
like
maybe. You are a white educated
Yeah,
liberal.
no, I just
That
feel
is
like we need
true.
to stop. I feel like that excuse, like, hey, we're stupid, we're not educated. I feel like that is we're making excuses for people that we shouldn't be making excuses for when we say
but
that.
we're saying, but we don't look at the whole context as a whole. It's like we don't look at
Yeah,
like
we get kind of a very packaged view of it
Yeah,
that doesn't.
we're not-
I don't
include
know.
all
My
the wider
package came with the
context.
context, I guess, and I just feel like I feel like a lot of times, well, why did America vote for Trump? Yeah, because they're stupid. But like that's also not going to like help like or
That's
why
what
do
I'm
people
saying.
yeah
That's what I'm saying. Like we're not looking at why these things are coming to, like, we looked at like the Holocaust happened. So
Right.
it's like Le Pen is like, you know, kind of mirroring a lot of what Hitler had done, but yet no one in France seems to be like picking up on that.
I mean, I'm sure some people are.
but
And I think even it's like a little reductive to say stupid too. I think it's
Yeah.
just like you don't realize how like the banality of
What
evil
if
and how it
some
comes
pe-
about.
yeah,
like you don't
what-
realize that it's kind of
Well, some
boring to
people aren't
watch and
looking
that like
that deep
Some
into
people
it.
don't look at it. I feel like
Right.
some people aren't really afraid of another Hitler, actually. I feel like that might be the case too. They aren't concerned about that because they think that this person's going to help them and their people and their family. And they don't really care what the fallout's going to be for others because they truly believe that this Le Pen is going to help them. You know, like they're not thinking about the general
Well, yeah,
masses
but that's
as a
what
whole.
I'm saying is they're
Yeah.
not putting too deep of thought into it
No.
because Le Pen says I'm gonna have a job and I like that, so I'm gonna vote for that person.
Right,
And I don't
exactly.
care about all that stuff you're
Yeah,
saying.
that's not going to affect me.
Stop throwing shade my way
Exactly.
because she's telling me what I want to hear.
Exactly.
That's why I think people are voting for her. Although, you know, again,
I feel like
it's
as you age too, your sphere of concern it's gotta
they
get smaller. You can't you know.
they do say like that as you get older, you get more conservative. Like for men, like they supposedly like
evidence of that is actually pretty
Dude,
weak.
I'm going to be the
Yeah.
opposite of that. I'm going to be a liberal cat
no,
lady,
they say
like
for women they
nudist.
get more radical, but for men they get more conservative.
Oh, okay. It works that way. Cool.
I mean, like I don't have any like proof to back
I don't know.
it
I mean,
up, but,
Summer.
like,
I feel like
They've actually
Somerville's.
done some studies on that, and
It's
it
said on
actually
the
doesn't
radio
hold
now,
up very
so
well.
I don't
think
think it
that's
holds up
proof
because I feel like
enough.
if you go to Somerville, you find a lot of awesome liberal nudist cat ladies
that's
and
Somerville.
old people and guys
but
that
if you
dress
go
up
to
as.
my
like-
dad, you're gonna find someone's getting more conservative.
Where's your
who
dad
doesn't-
live?
In Bedford.
Oh my God, that's where my family's from. That's so funny. But my parents are getting more
Bedford,
liberal.
Mass?
Yeah, Bedford, Mass.
Where America was won. What?
Yeah, right. The Bedford flag at the Bedford
It is
Library.
kinda
My grandmother works there.
you know, is that where you actually were born?
I was born in
Holland?
Concord, but I lived in Bedford for the first 5 years of my life. Then we moved to Boxford. But everybody in my family lives in Bedford still. All my grandparents, my cousins, my uncle. We got a plumbing company there. And actually, my family is getting more and more liberal. My grandmother has panic attacks over Donald Trump right now. And, you know, they all voted for Bernie. Actually, the last time my grandfather voted was for Nader. He won't vote for a candidate he
So
doesn't.
he lost the election for Al
Yeah,
Gore.
he's there. We're all pretty good at fighting the losing battle, but I think that I don't know. Does it really hold up the age? As you age, you get more
No,
conservative.
what I'm saying,
like,
I mean, like that's like a common like saying. Is
yeah,
that, like,
only for religious people, maybe.
I mean,
It's-
I'm
it's-
old at this point. I've
Yeah.
turned
I feel-
40
I feel
and
like
I'm still pretty.
You're 40.
Yeah, I know,
I
right?
know,
Dude,
he
congratulations.
He looks like he's
Well,
50.
thank you. Oh my God.
He does not.
So they're sitting on either side of me, and
I-
one gives me the compliment, and the other is herself.
Brings
no,
him back
no,
down.
that was an honest compliment because if you looked old as hell, I'd tell you.
Right.
You're like, Greg, you're wearing out, you know?
Well,
I mean,
thank
because
you.
I definitely am, that's for sure.
I think we've talked about Hitler enough. I mean,
Yeah, we have
Sure,
totally.
we could go on for a little while.
What is this,
longer.
what's the guy?
Godwin.
Godwin's Law.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've Godwin's
No, no.
Law this show enough for today.
So
He
France,
did a lot.
am I right?
Am I right? Who's
Yeah.
with me,
France
ladies?
though. France though.
So I would actually like to move on from this topic
Me
and talk
too.
about the topic that my phone keeps actually going nuts about.
Really important topic.
I just got a phone call from Jimmy Church.
I saw that.
Has his own show, Fade to Black, and co-hosts Coast to Coast every now and then,
Coast to
asking
co-host.
if it was actually true that Barrett Brown got arrested today, and I had to tell him it was. And he's going to be recording his whole show tonight about that, so I sent him down the rabbit hole of all the news articles that have already come out today about it.
Good.
So today, our good friend
Yes.
Barrett Brown, who two of us in this room have actually hung out with multiple times in person, and
no, I
been-
consider him a friend, and I'm very
he's one of my best
upset.
friends. I was talking to him every week for the last since he's gotten
I'm
out.
really jealous because I haven't, but I feel like maybe it's because I've got an open case too. Like I don't know. Or
Maybe, I don't know.
Like we don't have any beef. I feel like I'm kind of pissed.
He's hard to talk to right now because he only has a really crappy old
yeah,
phone
no,
and he can't go online.
I know what that's like. So
So-
I'm not really like blaming
he has
him
a
for it.
Nextel.
He's got a
totally.
he's
He
got a
has
track
like this
phone.
old, yeah,
He's got a track
exactly.
phone.
It is not a smartphone because he's not allowed to have one.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I was looking forward to talking to him because now that I'm out, I can talk to him, but or at least for now. But yeah, no, this is like the same old gag order bullshit, right?
Yeah, so what they've done is, he was out and he was on house arrest and he was working a job.
So for the layman out there that might like me, who might not be so familiar with Barrett Brown's arrest, I know he has done a lot of hacking.
No, he's not a hacker.
no.
Well, okay, so here
No,
we
not,
go.
no,
Here-
not at all though.
I'm not trying to be offensive. I really am
No,
not.
we're
that
not
phone
offended.
that he has is about as technical as he gets.
Yeah, he
That's
doesn't.
his-
He's a journalist. He's a journalist.
Yeah,
he's
so
not a hacker.
Barrett's a journalist, and very much so. You know, right now his job is with D Magazine in Dallas. Although he's
Exactly.
written for The Intercept, he's been printed in
Vanity Fair.
and
So what
all kinds of
did he
places.
get arrested for? What is he out on?
So
Oh,
he got
boy.
arrested during the investigations and trials around the Stratfor hack, which was done by various members of Anonymous and Lulz Security, supposedly. This hack was orchestrated by the U.S. government
Yeah.
through their puppet Sabu.
Ugh.
And what happened was Barrett had been really kind of poking the bear, you know, calling out the government, the
Project
military
PM.
industrial complex, and a lot of rich people in his way.
In his
And,
very, very clever way.
His clever but
Verbose.
direct way,
Yeah.
making trouble for a lot of people. And so when they saw a chance to come at him, they did. And what really happened and what it really boils down to is he was talking to some of the hackers who supposedly had something to do with the actual hack. And he got a link to the materials that were stolen from Stratfor. And
Which everybody got.
which
I mean, everybody in that
he
IRC.
got, everyone in that IRC got. And he sent that link to someone as a journalist who was about to start writing some reports on this data.
Right.
So a source gave him data, which is a thing that happens with all journalists. By the time it had actually gotten to Barrett, though, that link had already appeared in the news and all over the web. So he wasn't reposting anything that CNN hadn't already mentioned.
Yeah.
And they came at him and said that by linking to the stolen data, that actually meant that he had possession of the stolen data.
Copied and pasted a link to a torrent.
And that is not true. We all know. For
Yeah.
all of us who understand technology, posting a link to something doesn't mean it's sitting on your computer. For those who aren't that technologically adept, you also probably still know that.
And also, it was newsworthy information. And a bunch of other people had it. Yada,
The
yada.
torrent itself, the data that had come out of Stratfor contained a bunch of stolen credit cards.
Which should not have been stored in plain text to begin with.
And that data that Barrett did not possess, that he just linked to,
Never used.
they threw a total of 105 years worth of charges against him for his action there, which really boiled down to sharing a link to data that a bunch of other people were already sharing, including other journalists. And he
Right.
did it as a journalist working on research for a story.
Yeah.
So they really just wanted Barrett gone. When he went to jail, he ended up with a 5-year sentence. It was Barrett being thrown in jail as a political prisoner.
Yes. 100%.
And he got out a little early. And he was on house arrest. You know, surprisingly, he got a little good behavior, which I was not expecting. I thought he was going to serve the full time.
Yeah, because he was in the hole.
Yeah, they kept throwing him in the hole. They kept giving him solitary.
Yeah.
And they kept doing it because he was sending out articles that were getting printed in publications like D Magazine and like The Intercept
And Vice.
And Vice. And they were really upset because he was talking a lot of trash about the Bureau of Prisons and their mistreatment of him and other people.
Quite a bit of trash should be talked.
Yeah, they are a horrible, horrible group of people.
So
the
you think
Bureau of
Trump's
Prisons.
going to privatize it soon?
Yeah, well, it's mostly privatized
It's mostly
already.
privatized
Yeah.
already, yeah.
So here he is out, and what he does for a living when he comes out is goes straight to work for D Magazine in Dallas.
Which, you know, his other journalist friends work for.
And so
been
he's a
published there.
journalist doing media. Now, they tell him today that he was supposed to be asking for permission to do interviews, to be interviewed by other
And he's
media.
been interviewed for like months.
Yeah, he's been getting interviewed for months and months. I think the quality of the interviews that he was doing this week might have bothered them.
Yeah.
He did the last 2 days with an interview with Vice, and then he was going to be doing a PBS interview tomorrow.
Frontline. We all know what happens with frontline stories.
And they did not want him doing these interviews, so they said he violated his order here by doing these interviews without getting permission. So they've thrown him back in prison for interviewing with the supposedly free press.
Yes, and remember when he was actually being charged, there was a gag order on him to talk
Yes.
about his case to journalists and for things about his case to be published. So this is very similar to that gag order in the same way that they're coming after him again, trying to silence him again. Our brother out there trying to be silenced again. But I will say, he was also apparently not given this he was not given anything saying he was supposed to get permission to be interviewed, right? It was just like the computer
he kept asking for copies of any paperwork that said he wasn't allowed to be interviewed in any way.
Right, he wanted clarification.
They could not provide him with any evidence.
Which means it's fine until suddenly they decide it's not. So I have a feeling I don't actually have feelings. I have a feeling in any reasonable criminal justice system that actually, used, the blind person with the scales and understanding that he was not served any paperwork that showed him that he can't be doing interviews. A gag order would be ridiculous let's say the gag order with a free press is ridiculous in the first place.
Unfortunately, when someone's on probation, and I'm speaking in generalities here.
As someone who works in a law office.
Well, I have very limited. I can't speak on I can't be an expert or anything because I could be that's illegal. But what I'm saying is when it comes to probation, if just saying violation of probation gives the criminal justice system so much more
clearly
room and so much more basically weight because. If you're on probation, not parole, probation.
Right. Well, he's on parole.
Or parole. Either way, if you haven't served your sentence yet and you are out, right? Just the mere suspicion of being in violation makes you in violation because the assumption of innocence is gone.
Right. So, and this is parole, not probation.
For them to, even if he did not violate, right? Even if they're just, and I'm sure he hasn't.
Well, it's not
based
that
on what you're saying, but just them saying violation gives them so much more weight and so much more room to punch him in the gut.
No, I understand that as somebody who's a victim of the criminal justice system myself. I understand this.
It's unfortunate.
But what sucks is that the fact is this is not like a drug test violation. This is not a standard violation of parole to not give interviews to the media at all.
Oh no, it's completely bullshit.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. They can use this lob this ball at any time for anybody. And all they have to do is say you're in violation.
Right.
And even if you're not,
what else would be a violation at this point? You cannot read these books by this authors. You cannot, submit a letter to the editor to this paper. You cannot pet this cat. You know what I mean? Seems very arbitrary if you're starting to get to the point where media interviews that you were never even told you couldn't do
and that
are a violation. It's not a drug test. It's not a restraining order, and it's not a what's it called? When you have to pay the money back.
Restitution.
It's not a restitution violation. It's not a fee issue.
Well, it'd be one thing.
It's not a new crime.
And I heard this right before the show started. It would be one thing if he just pled out, right? Because sometimes plea deals
he did plead out.
So it was pled out. So
yes.
So if he went to full trial, right?
Which I think he should have personally. But.
When he went to full trial, that means it's now public information. So when it comes to plea deals, they can add things to plea deals, and because plea deals are technically secretive. They're not public knowledge. It gives them anyone more room to just basically throw a violation at you because it's you pled out.
He pled out years ago.
Well, I'm just saying that it's
he was writing for newspapers during his sentence.
There's one side is wrong. I'm just saying the criminal justice has such a upper hand when it comes to violation of probation because all they have to do is say violation and then boom, your life is over. Because.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's arguing that he had it coming or anything, but just the very you have the personal perspective and you have the knowing what the criminal justice system is capable of and the power they hold.
Yeah, they can say you're in violation of just him stepping out of his house just to put the trash out, and just them saying that you're done. There's not a lot of room because that's just how probation and parole works.
Oh, I've got a lot of fun to look forward to then. Clearly.
So
I guess we have to find out where he is.
Yeah,
because we don't even know where he is, do we?
Yeah, we do now. It's been tweeted out by the Free Barrett Brown Twitter account. A retweet of someone else actually figuring out where he was.
Okay.
So we know where he is. We know the phone number to call at the BOP, the person to name, and the inmate ID to give to yell about this.
Okay.
We are going to be giving that to you in a few seconds.
Okay, yeah, let's do that because I think this is really important. We have to, he's our brother, honestly. He's our buddy. And, now that I'm out, I can actually write letters and contact him as opposed to when I was in and tried to write him a letter and got it returned to me. And then I think that's probably how he found out I was in when he got the receipt of that, but he never got my letter.
Yeah, so on Twitter, Eric Tinney sent out that...
What's the at Tinder? What's the at?
At Tinder.
We need to call...
At Tinder, at Twitter, sorry.
we need to call Lujan, and we need to give the inmate number. Everyone write this one down. 45047-177. That's Barrett. And the number is 972-730-8837. Call that number and ask them why that inmate's back in jail there, and yell and scream.
Can we do that live on the air?
And I'm all for some profanities. Not with our current system, we can't.
Okay, because
Not yet.
that'd be awesome. I'll do.
Also, if you do call that number, listen through the part about they're going to tell you that the voicemail is full. Listen through all that, then press 0, and then
Yes.
you get the inmate number.
Yes. So yell and scream for us, everyone out there.
Please, we need your boost. We need to, do this.
His
because-
lawyer, Jay Lederman, put out a
Is that his
couple
lawyer now?
statements. Yeah,
Oh,
he
geez,
put
he's-
out some statements today in basic responses to some interview requests he got. And he said that they don't have any kind of formal paperwork yet stating exactly why this has happened, although phone calls have been made and we know it's for the taking the interviews. Hopefully he will be putting out more information tomorrow once he gets it. So there will be updates. You can check my Twitter. You can check the Free Barrett Brown Twitter. You can look up Jay Lederman on Twitter too as well. He'll be putting it all out. And we'll try and keep everyone up to date on this one. But again, call to action at the end of this one is call the BOP and yell.
Yeah, that is our call to action. Literally call and act and yell.
Correct. So with all of that anger at the end there, which, I might not sound as angry as I am, but that's because I'm worn out from being angry all day at this one.
Yeah, I honestly just found I was working all day and not able to access my phone.
Yeah, I actually told you this one when you walked in the door
Yeah,
here.
and I was like, what, WTF, BBQ? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. And I didn't expect him to go back in. I thought he was doing well as far as I knew. I thought it was a good thing he was getting back in the media and interviewing and stuff. You'd think that would be good. He's getting his life back. He's as a productive member of society. They don't want him to be productive because when Barrett Brown's productive, it's dangerous, apparently. I mean, I know that, but I know that that's also unjust because he's actually he's speaking the truth.
He should be protected as a journalist. He should be protected,
exactly. He's speaking the truth. He's using his First Amendment rights. And
there's a reason the free press is enshrined in our law in the First Amendment.
Exactly.
Because
You
it's
mean
the
that
most
fake news?
important.
Exactly. No, I mean,
It's number one for a reason. It's not the First Amendment because it was an afterthought. It's the First Amendment because it's one of the most important things we have in this country.
It is. And if we can't stand on it, if we lose it, what do we have to stand on?
Indeed.
I mean,
well, there we go, everyone.
That seems to be accurate.
I think we're...
I was going to say my balls, but...
It always comes down to dick jokes.
Yeah, always.
In the end, that's where we find ourselves.
Only Barrett were
Really a
here.
full circle.
Barrett would have elevated
Really
this
full circle.
conversation so much if he were here. But it would be in a very sarcastic and roundabout way because that's Barrett.
I mean, if you remember, the real introduction to Barrett that the internet got was when he was, in Second Life.
Oh my gosh.
Carpet bombing people
Faggery
with
daggery do.
with dildos.
Oh yeah, that was great. Oh,
yeah.
business conferences, in fact.
Yeah. That was our friend Barrett. So you have to love that, and because of that, make that phone call.
No,
for
I have
us.
so much love for that guy. You guys, seriously, call.
So we're at about an hour now, and maybe a little over, maybe a little under, somewhere near there, though. We're going to call it a show tonight, and hope everyone comes back for next week. If things go well this coming week, next week we'll be live. And if things go even more well, we'll have a special guest next week to talk about a few big legal topics.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Legal topics. I love legal topics.
Yes. So that's the show, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
The GreggHoush Show was created by GreggHoush and executive produced by co-host Derek Gowrays. Other contributors include producer and head writer Anna Jeffrey, producer-engineer David McGuffin, and producer-editor-engineer Robert Tortora. Theme music for this show was produced and recorded by Geneva de Colbert. Our interns include co-host Casey McLaughlin, writer-engineer Alec Greeny, and associate producer, writer, and announcer William Kennedy. You're listening to New Revolutionary Radio, your call to action.